Hi everyone, I'm recording Rissa. Thank you so much for stopping by my channel. I am going to be doing a quick video today on the MIND diet and how it's associated with reducing the risk of getting Alzheimer's disease. And before I jump into the whole diet and what it's about and how this study is definitely legit, please hit that like button and maybe subscribe. Okay, I'm gonna jump into it. Okay, so before we get into the MIND diet, which is the easiest of all the diets I'm going to talk about today, and the main diet that is great for reducing the chances of getting Alzheimer's disease, I'm going to talk about how the MIND diet even came around. And so it's basically a combination of these two diets called the Mediterranean diet and the DASH diet. Okay. So the Mediterranean diet, its goal is to promote heart health, reduce inflammation, support longevity, and it's a part of the traditional habits of like people from the Mediterranean Sea. That's why it's called the Mediterranean diet. And so basically the key components of this diet is like high daily intake of fruits and vegetables. And that's key because in the MIND diet, it doesn't really emphasize fruits as much. The Mediterranean diet is very specific about fruits and veggies. Okay, then it also encourages lots of whole grains like legumes like lentils, chickpeas, beans. So there's all that, and then they want healthy fats, and you get that from like your seafood and your fish, and that's 2 to 3 times a week. So I mean, in this study that I'm reading, it says that the Mediterranean diet says about 6 times a week, but what I'm reading on this study says 2 to 3 times a week. So I would say anywhere from 2 to 6 servings of fish is common in the Mediterranean diet per week, by the way. All right, and so you can have cheese, yogurt, and poultry and eggs in small amounts, which is, I love eggs, and chicken, so it's a kind of a struggle for me. But they also allow red meat a few times a month. That's pretty strict in my opinion, but it's again for heart health, so I could see why that is helpful. And then wine is optional and moderate. I don't know about that, but there's been studies that debunk that, so I'm not sure why they still include wine, but maybe it's just a traditional Mediterranean diet. And instead of using salt, you can use other herbs and spices. So I'm assuming there's not a lot of seasoning, or not seasoning, but saltiness to Mediterranean foods, you know? So let's jump into the next diet, the DASH diet. And so before I do that, I just want to say, again, I'm just going to go over the different diets because the MIND diet is a combination of the Mediterranean diet and the DASH diet, that I'm about to talk about next. So if you're interested in any of these like breakdowns, you can always reach out to me and I can give you like a little summary of like how to do a meal plan for these. But yeah, let's get into the DASH diet. Okay, so the DASH diet. So this is the dietary approaches to stop hypertension diet. And this is the biggest goal for this diet is to lower your blood pressure, support your cardiovascular health, and to reduce sodium intake, okay? So they're also recommending fruits and vegetables, 4 to 5 servings per day. That's a lot of fruits and veggies. 6 to 8 servings of whole grains per day. Low-fat dairy, 2 to 3 servings per day. And you can have lean protein like fish and chicken, less than 6 ounces a day. I'm not one to measure my food, but that doesn't seem like a lot. So then you can have nuts, seeds, and legumes, 4 to 5 servings per week. As you can see, it's already very different than the Mediterranean diet in certain aspects, but very similar in the like fruits and veggies aspects as well. But again, it really is more focused, I feel like, on the whole grains. That's a big difference, I think. The Mediterranean diet is okay with potatoes, and the whole grains, you know, it's like not as much intake. Whereas, sorry, there's a fly. Whereas the DASH diet has so many, 6 to 8 servings per day. That's just a lot for me. But you can have less than 5 sweets a week, and the Mediterranean diet is like no sweets. Eat 0 sweets, you know. And then for sodium, you can have less than 2,300 milligrams a day, and to avoid alcohol. So that's pretty much the main differences between them. Let's get into the MIND diet, because that's the meat of this video, so to speak. And I will basically just tell you how this study came about, just so that you can see that it's legit. And then I will tell you the results and put a link in my description, hopefully, for the paper, because it is a really cool paper. And it's actually, before I even forget, I want to remember to say this, it's written by Martha Claire Morris, Christy C. Tagney, Yamin Wang, Mark M. Sachs, David A. Bennett, and Neelam A. Agarwal. Okay, just so everyone gets their credit for this amazing work. Okay, so this study is pretty legit for a few reasons, right? They accounted for confounding factors that could affect the development of Alzheimer's disease, and they did so by using SPSS, which is a statistics analyzing system. And they did it for age, they adjusted for cardiovascular conditions, and both of those did not change the results. The results were still significant, even when you calculated in the risk of getting Alzheimer's from just age related dementia, and then cardiovascular conditions that cause dementia and other things. So that is one reason why it's pretty legit. And the other reason I would say is, I think I mentioned it earlier, but the doctors were not like aware of what diets the patients were on, so they couldn't influence like their neuropsychological testing results. And I'd say, I'm trying to think of the main reason why I would do this diet versus the Mediterranean. I guess it depends on what your goals are, because the Mediterranean diet is really helpful, that with like hypertension and like cardiovascular disease. So if you really are focused on that, but if you're focused more on brain health, this study looked specifically at foods that help with that, you know. And I just want to talk about the berries a little bit more, because I did say it was in a nurse's health study, but specifically if you eat blueberries and strawberries, they've seen slower cognitive decline. So it slows down the process in which you start to have cell death, brain deterioration, etc. And so that's why specifically they added. So in the study, the MIND study, by the way, the MIND diet study, they studied these elderly people from 2004 through 2013. So that's like a 9-year study. Another reason why it's pretty valid. And they did yearly neuropsychological assessments, you know. And then on top of that, at the end of the study, they came back 2 years later and 3 years after the study was over to check in with all the people. And they still had a couple people, not a couple, like maybe 10 to 30 people out of like 900 that developed Alzheimer's disease 2 to 3 years after they finished the study. But that still, you know, doesn't change the overall results, that so many of those people did not develop Alzheimer's disease. So I just think this study is pretty cool and wanted to share it with everyone. I am going to be trying to do the MIND diet, so if you want to see me meal plan for that, I can try to show you guys how I will be doing that. But basically, I'm just going to be incorporating a lot more frozen fruits, like berry. I already love frozen berries, so that's not really hard for me to do. But I'm also going to be doing frozen kale, frozen collard greens, and making smoothies and stuff like that, and seeing if I can mix it into my pasta and stuff as well. So if you want to see those recipes, let me know. But anyways, I just want to say thank you so much for watching this video. If you want more information on any of these diets, let me know. But I think, yeah, you should eat what you want. Hopefully, you know, you're in good health and you stay in good health. Yeah, thanks for watching again, and hit that like button.